Hello everybody, this is Betsy from Ideas Times 2, and today I have a video about specimen slides. I have some tips and tricks, different ways to do it in case you don't have certain equipment or tools. So the first thing, in case you didn't know what I'm talking about, it would look something like this, where there is a frame and then an insect or a flower or something inside of it to sort of look like a specimen slide, like a scientific, field note type thing. And so that's what we are making. This is just placed on there. A while ago, I had sent, Artymaze had a challenge or a contest. I think it was a contest, and we had to send something to her. So this was a while ago. I'm thinking 5 or 6 months. I don't remember. And I had sent her some specimen slides, and I had used these vintage photo slide holders. So that's the way I made those. And of course, not everybody's going to have these, but I love the size of this, and it's a real thick chipboard. So you can get the look of this though without having one of these. So I am going to talk about that quickly, hopefully quickly. So there are, what do you use for the inside? So if you have ephemera, cards, if you have paper, a lot of times you'll have smaller images that sometimes even go unseen, especially if it's a larger print. Like if you have a print like this, maybe you could find a smaller image on there that would work. I don't see any on here. Maybe a little fern. Trying to think of an example, so you could get a little iris in there. So different things like that. Just use what you have. Look around at your paper. A lot of times you have a sheet of smaller images. Something like this is wonderful to use these butterflies. This is from Gecko Gals, called Butterfly Jewels. So it's meant for charms, right? So something like that. So, and then you would fussy cut them out. That's what you would use on the inside. And it doesn't necessarily have to be an insect. As I just said, you could do flowers. Or like this one, I just cut petals out from a tracing paper that I had stained and made my own little flower. And that's nice because you don't need a double image. It's just the center of the flower looks a little better on this side than that side, but so you can use something like that. That's just a little sample. Okay, so you would have a little fussy cut image. If you want a double-sided image, you would need 2. So for instance, I cut out 2 of those. This one is already put together. So you can see I've got a double-sided image. It doesn't necessarily have to be a double-sided image though. You could, and I've done this many times, in fact let me show you. Here's an image I cut out from some Stampin' Up! Paper. It's this beautiful butterfly. And on the back side, I just glued it, before cutting, I glued it to a text. Let me see if any of these are different. This is the same idea. The butterfly with the text on the back. I think those are cute too, but you could cut out 2. This one was the butterfly and then some coffee stained paper that I had. So those are just examples. It doesn't have to be. This is the Stampin' Up! Paper without anything on the back. It was a double-sided paper and there were little polka dots. I thought that was cute too. Okay, I just dropped something in my trash. I'm hoping it's nothing I wanted to grab for this video today. So those are what you would use on the inside. All right, let me give you a hint. All right, so if you want to have a double-sided one, and you've got these tiny little images, and you tried your best to cut them out the same, but you might have some edges that are white edges that are going to show, and that doesn't look too good. Then you're going to have to do more cutting or something. So a trick that I found is to go ahead and flip these over, these images, and then to put ink on them. Ink up, you could ink up the whole thing if you want. Just ink up the whole thing. So you've got a nice dark, so that you've got a nice dark paper in the back. And this will help you so much with your edges. I usually use archival ink because that way if you have a wet glue or something, it's not going to run. So that's usually what I use, although I have used other glues and it works just fine. Alright, a good way to do this is to use a glue stick and glue these together. Glue sticks seem to be less messy with less, you know, oozing, so it works pretty well. And then you would glue these together. Now you have a double-sided image. And it doesn't look too bad. Let's flip it so you can see. Doesn't look too bad. I also like to ink up the edges. Where did I put my blending tool? Here it is. I also like to ink up the edges a little bit in addition to the, just a little. Helps it stand out a little more too, I think. Okay, so now you have your tiny double-sided image and you're ready to go. So that's what we're going to put on the inside. Alright, so let me put this aside. We're going to talk about, that's a little bit about images. You don't have to do necessarily insects. You can do flowers, or I think it would be even cute to do like a little stamp. That would be cute inside. Just use your imagination. You could do just about anything. If you're following a theme on your journal, you could put anything in there. I think that would be cute, and just use it as a piece of ephemera, right? Doesn't necessarily, it has the look of a specimen slide, but it doesn't necessarily have to be something that you would put in a specimen slide. Alright, so I'm going to set this aside somewhere. And now we're going to talk about frames. Alright, so a lot of times, I'm going to zoom this out just a tiny bit. I knew I had to zoom in though because of those tiny, tiny bees. Alright. So a lot of digital papers now have specimen slide printables, right? So you can just use those, cut out your frame, and cut out the image that they've already made for you on the inside, and those are super easy. I've done those, and they are awesome. The one I used just recently in a journal exchange with the Book Vandal Shop was Vintage Butterflies by Junk with Steph. And I'll leave her link down below. It was a wonderful kit. I think Artymaze also has one where they're already pre-made. All you have to do is cut. And those are so great. If you don't have a kit with those types of images, you have to make your own frame. So we're going to talk about the frames next, and then we'll talk about the laminating or the clear sheets that we would use on the inside. But right now we're going to talk about the frames. So there are three ways. Let me see my notes here. 3 ways. We already talked about one, and that is to have the pre-made, the pre-printed digital pages. All right, then we're going to talk about dies. So we have a die. I have a set of square dies, and in the packaging, it came with 8 different sizes of squares. So super easy. Just decide what you want. The best way to decide is the inside first. Get your image out and say, You know, this is another thing. You don't have to necessarily fussy cut these. You could use these as round. I think that would be so cute too. You could just use that as round, and so you would just, you know, punch those out or cut those out as a round piece. I think that would be also cute. But anyway, so determine the size of square you'd like, and then probably not the next size up, but the second next size up, and put another frame around it, and then run this through your die machine. Or if you don't have a die machine, you can actually take a rolling pin and make sure you have a protected surface underneath, but just roll it out, and it should cut your paper nicely. The trick I have for using dies is to put a little washi tape so that your dies, once you get it in the machine or once you start rolling, so they don't flop around, just put a little washi tape. Even washi tape can damage paper too, but you could like pat it on your arm or your hand a little bit to get the adhesive to be less sticky, but sticky enough to hold. And so just put a couple of pieces of washi tape, run it through your machine, and you'll have the perfect frame. So let me take this off. Also, I should say, so if you're making a front frame and a underneath side frame, run your two pieces at the same time. Just run one paper on top of the other. This is 110-pound cardstock, which is, I would recommend a cardstock for the frame because it'll give it more structure. But you could use paper and just glue it onto cardstock or something like that, definitely. But this is pretty heavy cardstock, and I ran two pieces through at the same time, and so it cut out this one almost completely. You can see, oh man, it came apart just perfectly. So I ran two at the same time, and it still worked. So I mean, that is super helpful that you can make two at the same time. So let me just take this apart and show you. Got your washi tape. You could use that washi tape over and over until it's not sticky at all anymore. There you go. There you have your two frames. Normally I would probably make this out of decorative cardstock, but just for the video I ran it through without finding a nicer patterned. Tim Holtz cardstock is wonderful for this, or you could use you can use paper, like I said. Text would be cute, wouldn't it? Text would be cute, but you'd probably have to glue it and then cut it. Cardstock or papers like this they might have a design on them, but when you cut out the frame, it's just little snippets of the design, and it probably won't be noticeable, but things like this are really nice. All right, so even this could be cute though. You could stamp on it. You could stamp, script. You could stamp numbers, any background stamps you might have. Those would look really cool. So now we've got our frame, and don't be afraid to use different shapes. I think these could be so cute. So here is an example, and this paper is actually really fun for this too. It's crackle paper, crackle look. And do a round one. The round ones are phenomenal. I think they're so cute. I'll show you. So if we put it together like that, look at how cute that is. So don't be afraid to use different shapes. And these are dies. So you pretty much would need a die machine for this, although if you're super good at cutting, you could make a round one. All right, so that's that. Put those there. All right, so using a die machine or a die, two dies, is wonderful. Okay, the other way, and I've done this so many times because for a long time I didn't have a square dies or round dies, so you could just draw a square. It's helpful to have a gridded ruler, although you don't have to. You could just use tick marks as you would usually do for just using a straight ruler. But a gridded ruler is helpful because you can just line up your edge with the edge of the paper and then just draw your lines. And then go in about 3/8 of an inch and then draw more lines. And then cut those out by hand. And those make wonderful frames too. This is the way I did it for a really long time. Okay, so those are 3 different ways you can make frames. You've got your kits. You can hand draw or you can use dies. I put this on. Isn't this paper going to be nice? This will be really cute for a frame. Alright, I'm going to put that off to the side. Now the next thing is what to use for your clear film and how to attach, how to attach it together. Which isn't too hard, but let's talk about the film first. Alright, the one I like using, well, okay, so there are 3 different things you could do here as well. So you can just buy clear film. I bought this at Hobby Lobby. It was on clearance and it was in the art supply section. I think to use it for transferring images or something like that. Anyway, it was, or maybe it looks like they did it to make picture frames without glass. That's kind of what it looks like, right? So this stuff is what I use all the time, and I really, really love it. So it's just clear film or acetate sheets, right? All right. The other thing is you could laminate with your laminating machine. So I have this exact machine. It's a Scotch machine I got at Walmart. Very inexpensive. It was $17. I think they've gone up in price at Walmart since I purchased mine a couple of years ago, but you can just totally run these through your laminating machine. That's what I did with this one here, so you don't have to mess with glue or anything. It's awesome. So I just ran it through my machine. You can use cardstock, and the only thing you have to be careful of is just not to cut it too close to the image, which you wouldn't do anyway, right? Okay, so I love this method. I don't always use it though because these pouches are big, and when you feed it into the machine, you can't use too small of a piece. You have to actually do like a strip at a time. So you have to be ready to make maybe 4 at a time, which is no big deal, especially if you're mass making. So this is an option. Love that option too. Done it. The other way is to do the self-adhesive laminating sheets. Alright, so it's basically just like contact paper. This was in Office Supplies by Avery. So I was going to just try that with you today. I'm going to get my bee. My bee that we made. Okay, and I'm going to peel this away. And we're going to just try this together. I've never tried it before, but I had some, and so I thought, well, to do it with you guys, let's just experiment. I'll tell you what though, I'm going to cut it down a little bit so I don't waste the whole thing. It's kind of nice. It has the gridded lines. So we're going to peel it off. Alright, so now I have the sticky side up. I don't know if you can see this better if I put it on something a little darker. Let's try that. Not sure. Hopefully that's okay for you. Alright, so what I'm going to do is stick it toward one end. Okay, I put that on a little crooked, so I'm going to see if I can lift it. I can, but look, it left a little mark. But I think it'll be alright. Okay, stick that down, and then what I'm going to do is fold this over. And then starting in the middle and pushing outward. Okay, that's pretty good. I'm going to burnish it down maybe with this little eraser. And this does remind me of something else I wanted to mention before we move on. And that is the legs, or the antenna. If you want to, let's see if that worked. I think that looks pretty good. I think that looks pretty good. What do you think? So then you would just cut out the size you need. It's pretty stiff. It's not as stiff as the thermal, but it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Put a frame around that and it's perfect. So that is also an option. Could be that contact paper actually has clear. I'm not sure. And hopefully it's super clear. But I just happen to have this, and I think it was because I didn't have a laminating machine at the time when I bought it. So good. So that's another possibility. Okay, oh, the other thing I wanted to mention was, like I said, was the, so these are self-adhesive laminating sheets. Okay. The other thing I wanted to mention was drawing antennae, and legs. And you certainly can do that. I would recommend, especially if you have the acetate sheets like these, to go ahead and cut your square. Let's see if I have any that I've already cut. I thought I did. That's okay. I'll just use one of these in here. They come with tissue paper in between because they do scratch pretty easily. All right, so here's one where I've used part of it already. See that? There we go. So when you put your image in the middle and you want to draw, for example, if we have a bee, let's put this bee right here. All right, straighten him out. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to glue these down and stuff in a minute. After you glue it down and you want to make little antennas, just take a black pen and draw them. And legs, especially on the insects. And then on a bee, what I usually do on these is keep this so that I can see where the legs were. And it looks like our other legs come up right here. Okay, so then you would have your legs. I'm going to zoom in just a tiny bit on that. See, the legs are in there. Okay, and now I'm going to zoom back out again. You could use a fine tip Sharpie. Sharpies a lot of times have sort of like a red tint to them, and that may not make any difference at all. But I've really enjoyed using these Royal Langnickel Nano Liners. So it's just a drawing pen, felt tip drawing pen, and they work amazingly. Some markers also have a tendency to rub off because the surface is so slick. So that's why I would recommend doing this before you put the other sheet over the top. You could do it afterwards, but it's probably going to rub off. You might want to experiment with that. So that's just a little hint on that as well. Okay, now I just wanted to show you some examples of how you can do these. How to do it. So I will show you. I experimented with some glues and sewing, which I really like the sewing one. Okay, so we are going to just go through these right on camera here. So this one I used a glue stick to attach it to the acetate, and I usually just put a tiny dab of glue on the body or in the center somewhere where it's not going to be quite as noticeable. And on this one, I used a glue stick to attach it just to keep it in place. And I also drew the antennae on. See that? Oops. Sorry. Okay. And I really like the glue stick in the middle, doesn't seem to show much. And then on the outside, I used E6000. So this is just checking on durability using these different glues, but you can use just about any glue on these. But the thing is they don't have to hold super well, but I wanted to test them to see so I could recommend a glue for you. I can't get it apart, so the E6000 is amazing. Here we go. Okay, it's very tough to get apart. So the E6000 works well. I did have trouble with this. It was messy. Let's put it that way. It was messy. So this worked amazing. That was E6000, and then using a glue stick just to keep the bug in place, the butterfly. This was my laminating sheet, so no glue involved, just laminate it and cut. This one was using Beacon Fabri-Tac around the outside, and then Stampin' Up! Has a glue in a fine tip bottle. I don't know what they call it. They have a glue in a fine tip bottle. So I used the glue in the fine tip bottle to glue the butterfly down, and I can't see the glue very much. I can see it if I look really hard. So I think Stampin' Up! Glue was the one I favorited for, and glue stick were the ones I favorited for gluing the butterfly onto the acetate. Okay, so now we're going to check the Fabri-Tac. Okay, see how it comes apart very easily. So that may not be the best, but if you're putting it inside of a frame, it may not matter depending on how you put that in the frame. Okay, so that was just an example there. This one I really liked. So I used double-sided tape. It's the regular Su Quang double-sided tape, which a lot of people use in paper crafting. So I had that. And I also put a tiny bit of Su Quang glue to hold the butterfly in. And you can definitely see the rectangle of glue there, so I probably wouldn't do that again. But once again, probably nobody's going to notice that, and you know, it's not going to make a difference, but it held it really well. So I really liked the look of this. Can you see the tape on the outside edge? It almost looks like frosted glass, and I really like that, and it was super easy to do as opposed to the glue, because the glue, you know, oozes everywhere. And I am having a hard time getting this apart. That Su Quang double-sided tape is extremely strong. Okay, so this is wonderful. Okay, the other experiment was Recollections Mixed Media Glue, and that came in a fine-tipped bottle as well. And then I used Tombow tape, which was a tape runner, and just lightly tapped it on the body, and it's the same as the Su Quang tape. It's really not the best. Like, you can see the square if you look very carefully. I mean, I think that's going to be way too hard for you to see, but anyway. And then the glue was Recollections Mixed Media Glue, okay? And that's coming apart very easily. Okay, so that is probably not the best type of glue, but it'll work, especially if you're going to be putting it in a frame and then the frame has some sort of place where it is actually gluing paper to paper. Okay, the next thing is stitching. I love this. This is one of my favorites. So it was just, I put a dab of glue in the middle here, and I think it was the Stampin' Up! Glue, because it's not shiny, but the glue the glue really oozed, and so it does not look that good right here. But what I really like about this one is the stitching. Like, just my sewing machine took it just fine. I didn't have to change settings or thread or anything, just stitch around it. And I did a couple of wonky stitches on that. And I super love that. I love that a lot. Okay, so that brings me to the fact that you can also put these in your frame and then glue, oh, I'm sorry. Then you're going to glue your frame. And there are some glues that are going to work better than others, as we just experimented. The best ones were the E6000 and the double-sided tape. So you're going to put these in your frame using your favorite glue or your favorite method. I would ink, this is plain, right? So I would stamp it and ink it first to give it a vintage look, and then just go ahead and tape or glue this in, or sew it. I've done this where I've sewn right on the frame, and this is opposite day, right? But this is what it looks like. It looks like it would have a frame with the stitching. That's what it would look like. So just go ahead and glue or tape. Make sure if you have some acetate sticking out at the edge, just clip it off. And that's how you would make that. A lot of times what I do is put an eyelet here in the corner and dangle it from, I like ball chain for that, but anything, you know, anything. The other thing I'd like to say, one more thing I think before we're done, is you don't have to mess with a back frame or a back image at all. You can use this as a tuck spot on your page. Let me bring this little signature out again, if I can get it. And I've done this before and I really like it. So instead of having maybe this, well, that's a pocket, so it might not be the best example. Okay, it doesn't matter. Let's just use the page to show you. All right, so you can use, like a lot of the specimen slides are the longer, thinner ones. I recently did that, and I sewed around the frame. I didn't worry about what the back looked like at all, and then I used that as a tuck spot. So the frame, just glue right here, just glue right here, and then leave it open, and then you've got a nice tuck spot. You're going to have to make sure this is glued pretty well to the frame, or go ahead and put a blank frame in the back. But so use that as a tuck spot. The long ones look really good used as a tuck spot. And I would recommend putting a plain paper journaling card or tag under there. For example, that's not the best choice. Let's see. Or something like this. All right, so you could use, see that? That makes it look fun, doesn't it? You could use a colored, like a plain or something that reads as plain color underneath, and just make a plain journaling card. Maybe put some stitching around the outside edge so it looks a little bit nicer, but if you put something that's a real busy print, if you put a real busy print on there, it's not going to look as nice. So that's just a little suggestion. If you don't want to worry about the back at all, go ahead and just glue it right to the page. You don't have to use it as a tuck spot at all. You can just glue this right down, and it still looks like a slide. It's just glued. You could actually do this right in the middle. How cool is that? And a person could journal all the way around it. All right, so those are just a couple of ideas. I hope you learned something. This one I put on the back. I didn't show you the back. So this is hand marbled paper, and I just put that on the back. It's on a newsprint, so it's got an interesting back. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. I'm going to put a couple of these out so you can look at them. And I hope you have fun with these. I love making these. They're a lot of fun. And I guess that's it. I hope you're well and having a great day. And we will see you soon. Goodbye, everybody.